I absolutely love the panoramic format. The Hasselblad XPan was made for the panoramic format, and it has legendary status. For this camera, the image is 2.7 times as long as it is tall, and the images really do stand out. As I mentioned in my XPan video, once you start looking at the world in a panoramic frame, there are great images everywhere, even with the simplest compositions. I love my Fujifilm GFX50R because it allows me to capture images in a panoramic format, and that is 65 by 24. To do this, I go into the menu, select image size, and go down to 65 by 24. Now check out my other videos where I capture panoramic images with this camera and a 32 to 64 millimeter lens. There are a number of options for film simulation when it comes to the GFX50R, and I decided to use Velvia because I wanted to compare it to using Velvia film in my XPan camera. I set the GFX50R to capture a raw image and a JPEG. The raw image uses the whole sensor, and so I need to crop that afterwards to have the panoramic format. So for these examples, I just use the JPEGs out of the camera. On the GFX50R, I had a 23 millimeter lens, and on the XPan, I had the ultra-wide 30 millimeter lens. And the 30 millimeter lens on the XPan gives me a wider field of view, slightly wider field of view than the 23 millimeter on the GFX50R. The XPan is noticeably smaller and lighter and easier to carry around, and you can see that the GFX50R is quite a bit bigger and heavier. When it comes to the features of the camera, I really appreciate the flip screen on the GFX50R. Makes it easier to compose when I'm low to the ground. Also, if I want to put the camera above my head, it's easier also to compose. If I want to get low to the ground with the XPan, I need to lie down on the ground and look through the viewfinder. Now, speaking of the viewfinder, because I have this wide 30 millimeter lens on here, I need to add this additional viewfinder onto the camera, and I need to compose by looking through the top viewfinder, and then I need to focus using the other viewfinder. So it isn't ideal, but you do get used to it. The XPan is fully manual focus, which can slow down the process of capturing an image. The GFX50R is autofocus, and I do really appreciate that. This isn't autofocus for really fast-moving subjects like sports photography, but it works well for the subjects when I'm walking around. Something else to mention is that I have the XPan 1, and so there's no shutter readout or any information in the viewfinder. I have to look on the back of the camera to find out what shutter speed is for my chosen aperture. The GFX50R, when I look through the viewfinder or on the screen, I have all that information. Now it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, I really do appreciate being able to see that information easily. This leads me to the experience of capturing images. The GFX50R definitely makes things a lot easier with all the features that I mentioned. The flip screen, the autofocus, the information readouts, and it's digital, so I can capture a bunch of images and not have to worry about running out of film like I would with the XPan. Now, I can experiment more, maybe movement images or images where I don't have as high a success rate. I can try that out with this camera. With the XPan, I'm limited to the number of images. A roll of 36 actually gives me about 21 panoramic images. So I have to be more selective with the photos that I'm capturing. So the whole process of capturing an image really gets slowed down. I'm framing through one viewfinder, I'm focusing through another viewfinder, and I'm looking on the back of the camera for the shutter speed. But that process really makes me selective in the images that I capture. With the XPan, I have one chance to get it right, and I wouldn't know if I got it right away. I'd have to wait until I get my film back, maybe a week later. With the GFX50R and with any digital camera, I see those results right away, and I can make adjustments to the exposure or anything else. Here's an example of two images from the same situation. The first is captured with the GFX50R, and I was able to capture a number of images and then just pick my favorite one. And I often do that when there's people involved and I'm using a digital camera. So I might capture an image and then wait and see how things change, or look for a better image and try to improve the image. This one, I couldn't actually move far enough back for this picture. I wanted to get further back. With the XPan, there were a few opportunities where people moved through, but it just didn't seem right. And sometimes I miss out when I'm shooting film because I'm waiting for something better to happen and it doesn't. But I really like this image. I felt like it had the right amount of blur. When it comes down to it, which one would I choose? Both have a purpose and a place in my camera bag. I like the images that I captured from both cameras, and actually I like each camera for what they are, including any limitations. Sometimes it's fun to be unleashed and be able to experiment, and sometimes it's fun to be constrained and challenged. If I'm capturing lots of images and I want to experiment with photos, I choose the GFX50R. It really does make everything easier. The variable screen allows me to shoot low to the ground and be less conspicuous. The autofocus works well. I kind of have an unlimited number of photos. I can try different things. I can see the screen and whether I capture the image or not. It really does make the experience easier. If I want to travel light and challenge myself, then I love using the XPan. I really liked all the images that I captured on this roll of film. You know, they were well thought through and well executed. I was very deliberate with my choices. Limitations are part of the charm of the XPan. So at the end of the day, it depends on my mood. If I'm looking to go out and explore and experiment, I grab the GFX50R. If I want a fun challenge, then I choose the XPan. Regardless, I will come back with beautiful images. I hope you like this video. If you have any questions or thoughts, please write them in the comments below. If you like the content I'm creating, please consider subscribing. Thanks so much.